What's up, everyone? We are back with another episode. Nick and Trey here with District Baseball, recapping the past couple weeks of Nationals baseball. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it these days, at District BSB. Lots of Nationals action that we have to cover and talk about today. Some good, some bad, and everything in between. But before we get to all of that, Trey, how we doing?
Nick, we're doing pretty good. I mean, it's definitely been up and down to start the season, but I feel like at 10 and 12, considering the schedule that we've had, I gotta say that's pretty surprising. I thought we'd be worse than this record-wise, so feeling pretty good about that. Um, got salvaged a win today to kind of keep that Giant series from getting too out of hand, but some other really good stuff earlier in the week. So yeah, I'm just excited to get into it and start recapping these last 2 weeks in Nats baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we're math real quick 18-ish%, almost 20% of the way through the season, which is crazy. Um, but I've been certainly pleasantly surprised. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, this team is in general playing at a level, I think, higher than anyone expected, at least this early in the season. And it's not without its flaws for sure. We'll get into all of that, but it has been good. It's just like the ways in which this team operates, both good and bad, is just like there's a lot to discuss, right? It's
The range of outcomes has been wide.
correct, right? That's a great way to put it. It's just like there's a lot to like, but I think today and yesterday, we're recording this Sunday night of the Giant series concluding. Um, it's just like perfect encapsulation of like the Nationals that we know and have known for the past couple of years are still there, and they still will like seep through a little bit. But there's coaching and the new era of these Nats that are shining through too. So it's just like this kind of intertwined mix of old and new and just like inside of you there are two demons, like who's gonna win kind of
Exactly.
thing. But yeah, it's been something. And I mean, honestly, like, let's call it what it is. Again, 18% of the way through the season, so much baseball left to be played. The NL East is not looking like its juggernaut self that it has been for a decade plus. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying it
That's
just
I was gonna I was gonna kind of bring it up too. I didn't know if you were gonna agree, but I'm like,
we'll
it
we'll
looks
talk about
gettable.
it.
The Braves are playing well, but it
Yeah,
looks gettable.
we're definitely going to talk about it, and
Yeah,
we're not going to sound the siren, the hype train just yet. But
we want to though.
yeah, I think we feel
We're
we
not
mentioned.
we can't yet, but we're
No,
getting
no,
there.
but like we mentioned it, or at least I mentioned it, like when we first got back for this season. It's just like I feel the life within at least myself as a fan that I haven't in the past couple of years, right? So even though we're 10 and 12, even though this pitching staff is uh certainly, something day in and day out, although today was obviously a shutout. You just feel yourself wanting to root for them, and obviously that's kind of where we all want to be as a fan, unless you're the Mets.
Mm.
But again, we'll get on to all that. We're jumping the gun a little bit. Let's recap these last four series, so just to kind of refresh everyone's memories. um since we last spoke, the Nats took on the Cardinals. Then they took a trip to Milwaukee for the Brewers. That's a fun series I can't wait to talk about. They then traveled to Pittsburgh and split with the Pirates, and then recently wrapped up a series at home with the Giants. So, Trey, why don't you take us through that Cardinal series?
Yeah, again a lot of good, a lot of bad. Definitely felt like the Nats let a game get away there in that game two. But in game one, they made a really nice comeback after once again having to endure a bullpen collapse. Luckily, it didn't end up mattering because that eighth inning was so good for the Nats. Wood tied the game in that inning with a three-run homer on a home run that if I'm doing everything correct on Savant, no other player has done as a left-handed batter to hit a 99 miles per hour, 99 plus mile per hour fastball 114 plus mile per hour exit velocity, and 18-degree launch angle. There's not a single other homer that matches that exact profile. So James Wood once again hitting homers that nobody else can really do, which was followed by Brady and CJ homers in that eighth inning. Probably one of the more fun innings of the year for the Nats. There's been a couple. We'll get to some more, but definitely one of the better wins for the Nats. It shows that they're very resilient and they're willing to just keep fighting. Not going to say the word. We got to find a new word, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
Unfortunately, game two was a bad loss with the bullpen collapse again. That the offense once again fought, scored 6 runs. You score 6 runs, you feel like you should be able to win most games. That was not the case in game two, and then game three was probably one of the more uninteresting games of the year so far. Offense finally really didn't have it, and Miles Michaelis wasn't terrible in that game, which was a success, but he wasn't great, and the bullpen just kind of leaked runs until the game ended. But yeah, then they headed on to Milwaukee. So Nick, why don't you take us through that one?
Yeah, what a series. We kind of um circled the series or highlighted the series because just knowing what the Brewers have been and are and project to be this year, we just figured take the Dodgers aside, this would probably be the toughest series of the season so far. And boy, did the Nats really show up. They come out of Milwaukee with a sweep of the Brewers, who are reeling right now. I mean, I guess if you get swept by the Nationals, yeah, you have some stuff to figure out. Game one was phenomenal. It was a 7-3 win for the Nats. The Butera ball was on full display as the Nats bunted their way to victory in the top of the ninth. Weimer, Nunez, Vivas all laid down successful bunts. Trevor Megill, who was an all-star closer last year for the Brewers, not just some like random guy who's getting a shot to close games this year. An all-star closer last year, looked completely lost against the Nats. The Brewers had no answers for the small ball. It was one of the more entertaining games, obviously, through this young season. And I think when you look back on the season, however it turns out, we can kind of point to this game as emblematic of what the Nats are willing to do to win games, right? They will call out whatever strategy may work. And we'll, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. It won't always work, right? They certainly are not all the way there yet, but it worked in game one against the Brewers to really set the tone. James Wood. Also, just before we get too far, because I know you mentioned the very unique James Wood home run. Credit to, I guess, the Nationals just sticking to it. But like last time we were on the show, like we were just talking about how much James Wood was struggling, and then he goes out and wins National League Player of the Week and looks like not only just an all-star but an MVP
Yeah,
candidate
as
with
soon as we posted that
as soon
episode.
as we posted that episode. So honestly, I guess credit to us for like
Yeah, no,
really
it's all us.
motivating, right? But James Wood had himself a series um, against the Brewers. Game two, Foster Griffin looked great. 5 innings, no runs. Brad Lord came in after that. Looked great as well. Clayton Beater, a little bit of a scuffle, but got out of it. But James Wood, as the aforementioned difference in that game with that RBI double to pull out a 3-1 win. And then going for the sweep in game three, again, as a whole, the series was great, but this one was really cool to see them go back and forth. It wasn't just, a Brewers meltdown or a dominant pitching performance. Like they had to come back multiple times during this game to pull it out 8-6. Bryce Terang hit an early home run. Then the Nats hit a home run with James Wood. CJ sack fly. Terang homered again, and then the Nats exploded for 4 runs in the seventh, including a first and third play. So just again, another way the Nats are kind of pulling out all the tricks to win games and at least give themselves a chance. Gary Sanchez answered with a 3-run bomb, and then Keibert Ruiz, of all people, had a RBI single in the eighth, and then Gus Varland, of all the people to close the game for the Nats, with his first career save, looked good doing it. So they get out of Milwaukee with a very impressive sweep.
Yeah, and just going back to the first game, James Wood began that game with one of the hardest hit balls of the year.
Yes, he did.
He's been just throwing up casual 115 plus exit velos all season. It's actually insane. He leads the league in barrel percentage, so there you go.
You know how in
Uh,
the mid 2000s, like if someone threw above 94 miles an hour, like the Fox graphic would light up with fire.
yeah,
Like James Wood, you know, if it like exit velos, if anything was over 100, it would light up with fire. And now it's just like anything less than 110 by James Wood is just like almost not impressive.
yeah, he had a
like,
homer and it was like 106. I was like,
like,
oh,
oh, that's
whatever,
it.
who
All
cares?
right,
Not
whatever.
even
Like
that good.
Curtis Mead had that today. What
I
is
know,
that?
right?
What are we
Yeah,
talking
it's
about?
yeah, James clearly losing it whenever he misses one.
Right.
But yeah, not a great series there. And then they end up heading to Pittsburgh. The Pirates, by the way, are playing some great baseball right now. Honestly, the entire NL Central looks pretty good. Um, we kind of went through a little bit of a gauntlet early in the season. We started with the Cubs, obviously, the Cardinals, then the Brewers, then the Pirates. So we've already kind of seen almost all of that division. But there was a four-game series against Pittsburgh. The Nats end up splitting that 2-2. And considering what the run differential looks like, I'm gonna say a series split was really, really good. It all came from the first game where the Pirates absolutely cooked us. It was 16-5 final, and they had Paul Skeens on the mound, and it was already going to be an uphill battle to win anyways, especially because he came out pitching very well. He gave up one hit, which was a solo shot to CJ Abrams in
I
the
was gonna
first
say
inning.
for a brief moment in
For
time,
a
it looked like we
brief
might
moment,
might have it, and then
we
it
had a
quickly went
we
south.
had a 1-0 lead against Skeens at one point. Okay, we did have it, but unfortunately, Kay Cavalli, after a really really good first inning, couldn't throw a strike in the second inning. He threw like three total strikes in that second inning, walked the bases loaded, I believe, and it kind of just all fell apart afterwards. He couldn't get out of that inning, so it left our bullpen in a bad position. A bullpen that was already terrible and also now injured because they had to bring up some guys to fill in some spots. Cole Henry's hit the IL, as well as Ken Waldichuk, who is probably out for the season with Tommy John surgery. Um, so the Jackson Rutledge experience reared its ugly head in that game, and he allowed 7 runs and was immediately optioned himself. So at least they recognized right away that that was not an experiment that was going to work. But yeah, at that point, the game was pretty much over. And that's offense, as soon as Skeens left, lit up because it seems like Paul Skeens is basically the only guy that can stop us right now on offense. But it just obviously was too little too late. Game two, Nats actually do sneak out a win, another close one. It was a 1-run game. Um, they did a really good job early of grinding at bats there against Mitch Keller, who has been really good this year, other than that start. He just kind of we kind of shook him up. He couldn't really get it in the zone. We were fouling balls off. We were taking walks. Some of the better at bats they've put together all season in a season filled with great at bats with a great offense. Luckily, this time the bullpen locked it down. We actually had the return of Mitchell Parker as well, which, if you've listened with us in the preseason, we knew this was going to happen and we were not excited for it. But he looked really really good in that outing in particular, and the rest of the bullpen held it together with another Varland save. It kind of seems like it's whoever's feeling it between Beater and Varland is going to get the save opportunities. They're not really going to one or the other every time. Um, Honestly, right now I'd prefer Varland just because it seems like he can throw more strikes. But either way, that was another win. Game three, pretty underwhelming performance from the Nats. They do get shut out, first shutout of the year for the Nats on offense. At the same time, I do have to give a lot of credit to the Pirates pitching staff, and I was texting you during the series about how good their pitchers looked because the Pirates can pitch straight
Yeah.
up. Like their
Mm.
pitching development, like we knew that their starting rotation was going to be pretty good, but um when Carmen Mlodzinski is absolutely shutting you down and like legit shutting you down. Like
Yeah. He was really
I
good.
think one of the innings he hits James Wood with one of the nastiest backdoor sweepers on a full count and then proceeds to follow it up with like a gross change up down to strike out Garcia. And I was just like, all right, you know what? Sometimes you got to tip your cap. Like
Hmm.
they had it, and honestly, the Nats pitchers had it. It was a 2-0 win. So unfortunately, the one night pitchers actually had it. The Nats offense finally got shut down. And then game four, if you watched game four, you know that this is the case because it was just gross. It was one of the ugliest games of the season by
Neither
both
team wanted to
teams.
win.
Neither team deserved a win. The Nats somehow lucked out that the Pirates decided to pitch to James Wood in extra innings with a base open. That was a mistake that it was funny because every single person in the stadium and in the broadcast booths, including ours, knew that they should have walked James Wood in that situation, and they didn't. And he drove in the RBI single, and somehow Orlando Ribalta finished out the bottom of the 10th, and the Nats got a split there. Again, neither team really deserved to win, but somebody has to. So the Nationals got that win. They have won ugly a few times this year. You got to do that sometimes. You got to just continue to battle. And they did continue to battle, but the Pirates really gave that one away to us. But it helped to get a series split against a pretty tough team. That Pirates team looks good. They look like they could definitely make a run at that division. So I feel like that was a pretty good split to get.
Yeah, shout out Connor Griffin for gifting us 3 runs on a ground ball to
He
shortstop.
did. He
So
did do that. And they hit a
yeah,
double for you later for fantasy, though. So,
yes, yes.
yeah.
And I do have Majinski or whatever his name is for the Pirates as well. So
Yeah.
that was a good fantasy week for you,
Yeah,
boy.
not how that is spelled, by the way, in case you that's not how
No,
it's
not at
spelled at
all.
all. It's
Not at
very
all.
confusing, but that's how it's pronounced. I
Yeah.
checked.
After the series split, the Nats returned home to host the Giants, whose offense to that point had really been scuffling, allowing the or scoring the lowest runs in baseball prior to the series with the Nationals. But as we have seen in years past, if you don't have a get right series on your schedule, you probably are the get right series. So the Giants come into DC, and what do? They immediately get right. Zach Littell allowed 6 runs in the second inning in game one. The offense, to their credit, did try to battle back, but the Giants kept adding on for a 10-5 win in game one. Game two was something. It really was something. I mentioned it earlier. Uh,
Do you like my notes for this section?
yeah. Trey's notes: dumb, 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 so dumb. And I think that might be underselling it. Like this was as undisciplined as we have seen the Nats play this year for sure. But also, it was just so like reminiscent of the Davey era, which I know wasn't that long ago at this point, but like there was guys getting picked off, guys not running it out because they thought the play was over. There was uh, what else? What did Curtis Mead do?
But he didn't slide for some reason
Yeah,
at
he
third. It
didn't.
was like the base running mistakes were like
It was
they were like
bizarre.
on another level of weird
Yeah,
because it's one thing if you're just over aggressive and getting thrown out, but the Nats like weren't even they weren't running the bases like human beings. It was
right.
very
Like
weird.
there's bad base running, and then there was like I guess just unaware. Like the base running seemed unaware, basically. Like Jorbit Vivas. Grant, it was a little bit of a weird play, I guess, because I think he thought there was a force out at second, but I can't
Yeah,
remember
you
who
got to run
slid
it
in.
out
Yeah,
anyways.
I can't remember who slid into second, but they beat the force play at second, and Adamas with a really heads up play knows he probably didn't get the force at second, so he fires a dart to first base, and Vivas wasn't running it out, so Vivas ended up being the final out instead of the force out at second. And had he run all the way through, he's probably safe, and the Nats pull out a win. Um, yeah, it was something. Went into extras. Dalen Lyle had a game to certainly forget. It was rough. It was rough. It was I don't necessarily blame the coaching staff because again, I think we've seen so much good from this team early on. Like it was also unrealistic to expect them to fix everything immediately and not have any sort of regression and have the progress be strictly linear with no setbacks. But this was certainly a game where you can go and be like, yeah, there's a lot of material we can work on in practice the next day. I think Butera even mentioned it, like they met at 12 o'clock the next day to kind of go over everything. And to their credit, I mean, they bounce back in the way you need to bounce back. A lot of it was due to pitching, but however it works. Um, Poulin was the opener today. Mikolas followed the opener again, which anytime Mikolas pitches is not, or Michaelis, whatever, is not great, but today it was. And then Andrew Alvarez was called up today. 4 1/3 in relief, 0 runs allowed. He was throwing his breaking stuff more often, and it worked. Finished the game, got the win. Curtis Mead had kind of the like breakaway home run after a kind of weird series of events in the field. Um, Nunez was gunned at home, but Patrick Bailey couldn't handle the throw. But it was also on a diving attempt where the ball popped out. So he was like kind of back and forth. It was a very ugly defensive effort on both sides. But the Nats win 3-0 and, salvage, prevent the sweep, salvage a victory, and bring themselves to 10-12 overall. But yeah, this Giants series was something. It was just very, very reminiscent of a series from last year or the past couple of years. So I'm hoping this was just a blip in the radar and they get it back together before the Braves come to town because Trey, I mean, the next time we talk, it's not unrealistic the Nats could be in first place in the NL East.
Well, it's not unrealistic. It's not likely either,
All right,
but
not far fetched given that they're in second place and the
yeah.
Braves are coming to town.
And
Is
the
more
Bra
so what I meant.
yeah, this Braves series coming up is definitely it's a good way to gauge where we're really at
Yes,
because
correct. Braves are
you
playing well.
know realistically we outplayed the Phillies. I know we lost that series because of the bullpen, but like
We're going to lose a lot of series because of the bullpen.
yeah, I mean that's kind of what's been going on because we should probably have like 13, 14 wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why this team's we're like we're really close to being kind of good. We're not quite there, but we're getting there. And if we can, this is the perfect series to really lock it in. This is a division rival. This is the first place team. You're in second place. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know it's April, but you look at the stand. I want them to see that standings first, second. We're right there. I don't care what the game's back says. I don't care what the records say. So it's go time to try and at least put up a good fight here. If we can get a series split against this really hot Braves team, I would say that's a huge success. And then yeah, if you can take three and gain some games back, and then you got the White Sox after that, who I mean the White Sox are better this year, but they're still the White Sox. Like you should be able to go and win that series. So
Right.
um, you know, there's opportunity here. And even if listen, we don't think we're gonna be a playoff team. We don't think we're gonna win the
No,
division, but you
no.
have to have that mindset.
You are until you're not.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have you
exactly. Like
have to
you're
have that
shooting for the
mindset,
playoffs
especially
until
in
you're
in the
not.
clubhouse. Exactly.
Yes.
So the clubhouse mindset has to be, hey, we're trying to win every game and make the playoffs, even if this is a rebuild and we know it's not going to end up happening.
Yeah, we're not suggesting they go out and buy at the deadline and give away
Yeah,
prospects.
exactly. And they're playing like they believe that they can win.
Yeah.
So, I think that no team so far. I mean, we played the Dodgers, and obviously the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they
Right.
kicked our ass. But I mean, we went into Milwaukee and played really well. The Pirates are good. Obviously, not the result we wanted with the Giants. Um, but again, you flip a couple plays here and there, we can win that series. So it's just a few little things away from being an actually legit good team. Maybe not a contender, but like a team that can play with anybody. So it's
Right.
right there. It's right there. This is the series to make a statement. So I'm hopeful that they can at least secure a split there.
Yeah. And if they want to do that, obviously the way they do that is offense. As of right now, through the conclusion of the Giants series, they're tied for the most runs scored with Atlanta. Or sorry, that was prior to today. But I imagine they're still right there.
Right
Top
now,
10.
Atlanta's up by one. They have the
All right,
Sunday
well,
night game right
there
now,
you
so
go.
they're winning by one in that
There you
category.
go. But we're top 10 in average, on base percentage, slugging, OPS, WRC plus, and stolen bases. Only 12th in home runs, but as we see, it's in large part due to Wood and Abrams. We have the third highest ground ball percentage, which not necessarily a bad thing. Hard ground balls can be good, but it's not necessarily a sticky stat. It could very well go the other way as well. And you know, be ground affect BABIP is basically what I'm trying to say. Lyle's heating up, but House is struggling. Jacob Young is doing enough. He actually looks like a serviceable all around player. There was never a question about his glove, although he had quite the head scratching play. I think it was
Had
in
a
Pittsburgh.
couple weird ones, but
Yeah,
we'll let it slide for
yeah,
now.
we'll let it slide. On the flip side, Nasim Nunez, great glove, but I don't know that his bat is good enough to stick around. So that will be something to watch if, let's say, Jose Tena or someone else, Jorbit Vivas, really start hitting a little bit better. I think we might get away a little bit from the platooning, and in general, the platooning it's working. Like you can't look at these numbers and say it's not working. But I do think if you look at someone like Brady House, it's affecting him. The guys that are performing well, Wood, Abrams, Lyle, even Jacob Young, they're playing pretty much every day, right? The guys that are getting those random off days just because it's a righty or a lefty or whatever, they're the guys that, you know, only, break out, not break out, but perform well every now and then. There's no consistency to be had, and I'm not saying every guy is going to be consistent, a consistent producer for the lineup. But you look at someone like Brady House, you would think he's good enough, or at least a priority enough, to play every day, regardless of righty lefty matchup, whatever. I just find it hard to believe you're taking away opportunities from him to give to Jorge Vivas or Jose Tena or Curtis Mead or whoever. Louis, for example, Luis Garcia, there's enough data on him through his 5 years with the team. We kind of know what he is and we can play to his strengths. But like House, you're still trying to develop him a little bit more. And he got off to a great start, and then we kind of started getting into the platoons, and he's struggled since then, and his defense has struggled as well. And I think at least part of that is due to just the lack of consistent playing time.
I think there's going to be a grace period here where where the coaching staff kind of figures out who can do the platoon
Mm-hmm.
successfully, because it's a hard role to play if you're not having those consistent at bats every day. At the same time, I think Butera's done a great job in the pinch hitting department. I mean, the Nationals are
I think
not
they lead the
afraid to use
league.
their bench.
Yeah, it
I don't have the stat, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned on the broadcast at
was
one
like
point this week.
seven. Yeah, seven pinch
Yeah, at
hits
least at some
at
point
some
during
point.
this last week,
Yeah,
the Nationals were leading in pinch hit opportunities, and realistically, I mean, every game there's multiple subs. Um, True National League baseball for all you purists out there,
right.
and it is working. I think in those situations, those pinch hitting situations, it's definitely been mostly to the
It's been
benefit.
yeah, it's been great with
Um,
the catchers. I don't mean to cut you off, but like the catchers are like with Millis and Ruiz, and even utilizing some other ones, like that's where it's really excelled, in my opinion.
mhm.
Is his strategy with not being afraid to use all of his catchers, which I see in this case is only
Yeah, I
two,
mean,
but still,
Millis and Ruiz have both played in the same game, probably over half the games this
yeah,
season. Again, don't have the stat right in front of me, but it feels like that having watched pretty much every game. Um, so, I like that part of it. I do think there's going to be some stabilization with platooning with guys that can and can't do it. I think Curtis Mead is a guy that can do it. You've seen his
yep,
numbers versus lefties have been really, really strong, and I like the concept of him and Louis trading off. Louis again is basically doing the exact same thing he always does, which is his expected numbers are better than his real numbers
yep.
every single year. It happens every time. I don't know what it is with him specifically that it's like that, but again, we're hoping he's been hitting the ball pretty hard, pretty consistently, so he should get it going. He's had a little bit of a rough patch. But Mead also had a little bit of a rough patch, and he broke out of that today with a homer. So, um, honestly the scariest thing about this offense is that not everyone has had it at the same times. Like Wood didn't have it for the first three series when everyone else was kind of going off, and now Louis and House have kind of started to struggle a little bit, but now Wood and Abrams have basically taken over, and then Lyle's starting to get back to his line drive self. He had a homer in this past series as well. So I mean, think about that. If you ever get all those guys clicking at the same time,
Hmm.
that's really scary, especially you know considering that the bottom of the lineup they haven't really they haven't it's tough because numbers wise I feel like it's worse than what I've seen. I feel like maybe it's because there's been some clutch hitting. Like you brought up Ruiz hitting a RBI single. I feel like pretty much every Ruiz hit this year has been somewhat clutch, although he hasn't. His
But
base
that's
numbers
it.
aren't that good. Yeah, no, it's weird. So I feel
It's
like Nunez is
yeah.
kind of the same way. Like Nunez's hitting numbers are pretty bad, but situationally he's been okay. So it's weird. I feel like everyone's putting in really good at bats. And you brought up Vivas as well as a platoon guy. He's done pretty well in a part-time role. Gets on base a good bit. Has basically no pop, but if he can get on base, he's good, pretty good defender. Although he had a miscue in that he had a couple mis. I mean, he just had a bad game. Let's just be real. Let's
Yeah.
let's be real. He had a bad game in that game too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he's been pretty great. And I mean, we definitely said when that trade happened that it made 100% sense, and we totally understood it, and
Right.
we weren't questioning it whatsoever at all. Yeah, but that that's why we're here, and they're doing their jobs over there, maybe. But
Yeah, I think
uh,
my thing is like if everyone's a part-time player, do you have any full-time
yeah,
players?
I
And
know.
if
Yeah.
everyone's a part-time player, you're gonna it's to your point, like no one's gonna be clicking at the same time. Um, and again, it's early, they're figuring things out. Not everyone's going to like I find it hard to believe they're gonna do this for the rest of the season at this rate. Guys will get spot starts and things like that. That's totally fine. And I know they're gonna continue pinch hitting and not being afraid to swap out guys and play matchups. That
And
all makes
also
sense. That's
another thing,
philosophical,
sorry
but
to I didn't
no,
mean to
you're
cut you
good.
off, but basically the Nationals have an open DH spot.
Yes.
There's no consistent, and it's been like a mix of Garcia and Tenna, and I think Weimer might have done it once as well. So I mean, but those guys aren't DH type of guys, but at least you have that extra spot to get guys at bats if you need it.
Right. And I think another good example is Weimer, right? Where I don't think anyone expected him to, go perfect on base for the entire season. But it was early on where he was going through that streak and then you sat him just because of the matchup. It's like that's where I hesitate. That's where you lose me. Because if we're so invested in the matchups and the analytics and there's no wiggle room, it's like, okay, that's your philosophy. And more often than not, it works, but like you're going to run into consistency problems. Because at the end of the day, these are humans on the field, not numbers. And I'm not trying to, this is probably the most like, you know, purist boomer baseball guy take I've had in a while, but I do see where it can be too much. So I would like to see a little bit more feel sometimes, but it's early. I'm not panicking. I'm not complaining. I'm noticing.
I also feel like we're just not used to it.
It
We're
is
just
it
not
is
used
new.
to
It's very new.
it's very jarring because it is completely different. I mean, completely different. So yeah, no, it's some, and yeah, I haven't agreed with every Butera decision either. So I'm with you. Sometimes there is that, but I can definitely see they want to stay consistent with their approach for now. So I'm cool with that. And yeah, like you said, it has been working more often than not, offensively speaking. Bullpen wise, it's not really much he can do because the roster's just not that good. But
It'll be fascinating to
he's
see
he's been trying with the pitching staff. We'll get to that in a minute, but
it.
he's
Yeah,
trying.
it'll be fascinating to see what Butera does when he gets a serviceable bullpen. Like, let's just say there's
Yeah.
two guys that like are good and the rest are what they are. Is he going to pull a Davy and just run them out there every day? I mean, I doubt he will, but it's just like, all right, how is he going to work through that?
Yeah.
It's just
Right
going to be
now, the
fascinating
bullpen
to see.
has three relievers that are, or no, three former starters as relievers. So
And
that's
that's a perfect segue to my next
interesting
point. I like that. Um,
for this team right now because we can't get the starter through 5 innings. Yeah, I love it.
Basically, right? But it, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. Like it gives you options basically, right? And that's kind of been the MO of this team. It's just options. No one's, I mean, aside from your Wood and Abrams, no one's gonna be the guy to carry you through, whether it be pitching or offensively or in any capacity. But having options more often than not has worked for this team. So getting a random 3 inning gem from Mitchell Parker after your starter blows it is good today, right? Granted, Poulin and Michaelis did well, but getting Alvarez, who recently just got called up to give you 4 1/3 out of the pen and get the win, is good, right? It's nice having options. So I don't know that we've ever, again, it's a lot of baseball and a lot of different teams, but the idea of having 2 to 3 long relievers I don't hate. And then you just kind of figure it out from there. But who knows? Maybe your long relievers can just stay in the game and get the save or get the win or whatever. And you don't have to go to these highly volatile yet talented arms like Beater or Varland or whoever. At least not all the time. It's an interesting tactic that I don't know that it was necessarily intentional because it's April 19th and I think they've already used like 19 different pitchers. So
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
that it's intentional, but it is kind of interesting if you can kind of play to these pitcher strengths. Like I mentioned, Alvarez with his breaking stuff is good. His fastball is not. Parker, like obviously we know he's not an MLB starter, but he has had moments where it's just like, okay, he can get outs at the major league level. They just can't do it over 6 innings. Um, and so, and then Brad Lord, we really like him in the swingman role and feel like, take today out of it, that he might have been a better option to be in the rotation as opposed to Michaelis. So it's just interesting. And they optioned Alvarez back to AAA, but I think that's more so just to give them other because Alvarez is going to be burned for the next couple of days and their
Hmm.
bullpen's hurting. So I think that's more so um, to set them up for the Brave series. And I would expect Alvarez to be back in short order. Um, I know everyone's like, wow, you're going to do that after a guy just shoved for you. I get the optics of it, but if you just think about it strategically, it makes sense for them to get a fresh arm in their
Yeah,
bullpen.
and we're still in a stretch of 17 and 17 here, like 17
Yeah.
games, 17 days, coming off a series in Pittsburgh where the bullpen had to pick up a lot of innings, and it ended in an extra inning game, and they went in extras in this past series against the Giants. Like arms are burned. Yeah, I'm almost 100% positive he'll be back. Probably during the Braves series. We're probably gonna. Who did you see who got called up?
I did not see a corresponding move. I don't know if they've announced one
They might
yet.
not have announced it. Yeah, so whoever that is probably going to get some
I
innings
could
just
look real quick.
because out of necessity we're trying to salvage this bullpen that has been because I mean the bullpen's been bad, but at the same time they've had to work a ton of innings because the starting rotation is averaging less than five per game. I think national starters have only been in the sixth inning twice this year, maybe three times. Foster Griffin twice, Cavalli once.
Hmm.
So, that puts even if you have a good bullpen, that puts them in a bad position. So yeah, no, I would expect Alvarez to come back up
Yeah, I don't
pretty
know.
soon.
According to their actual transaction log, there hasn't been a corresponding move yet. So, well, I
Yeah, it might
mean,
be Rebalta coming back because
it
he
could
he
be.
just went down. He might come right back up because he actually pitched pretty well in
Yeah,
that game
that's
against Pittsburgh.
that's a good call. Just looking at the recent ones, like they activated uh Dick Lovelady.
Yeah, we got him back.
Yeah. Then yeah, they optioned Rebalta, called up Alvarez, and then optioned Alvarez. So it
Yeah, if you
could
want to
just
keep
be
up with this team, you better be looking at the active roster every
yeah,
day because they are
seriously.
making moves every day. They're not stopping. They're trying to figure this pitching thing out, and I respect that. You
Yeah, it's
gotta
where I'll give them credit. I mean, they said like they're not there's no placeholders on the 26-man rosters. They're going to use all 26 guys and they've held to that.
and plus they've
And
gone
plus,
already gone deep into the
right,
AAA.
mixing and matching.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's interesting, but enough with the platooning. Let's switch to
Talk
the
about our two guys
yeah,
here.
yeah, the studs. James Wood. We mentioned it. It was a rough start, but the Nats and Blake Gutierrez did not lose faith. They kept him in that leadoff spot, and he has absolutely delivered. He's brought his season stats up to 256, 385, 570 for OPS above 900, 954 to be exact, with 7 home runs, which all great numbers. But if you take out that first week to 10 days of the season, it's absurd how
Hmm.
well he's playing right now. A highest barrel rate in the MLB with 28 and a half. His K rate's still high, 31.2, but you'll take that trade off. You'll absolutely take that trade off. Um, it's down to 27%, which is a little bit more manageable in his 2 week hot stretch. And he's starting to get the Barry Bonds treatment, right? Where teams are starting to pitch around him, unless you're the Brewers.
Yeah, for
So
whatever reason.
yeah, it's super encouraging to see. And we can just lump CJ into the same conversation because I mean, he started hot and has stayed hot, but he is the highest batting value in baseball. 1068 OPS, which is the highest in the National League, and a 445 on base percentage, which is like it's crazy. You see home runs and these big hits and these exit velocities, and it's like the walks are the thing that get us
Yeah,
the most
I know,
excited.
right?
But it just after seeing this team's discipline or lack thereof the past couple of years, it's super encouraging to see because it means these numbers are more likely to stick,
Mhm.
especially with CJ and James last year as well. They got off to these hot starts and they fall off a cliff after the All-Star break. So having a fallback, a safety net with walks and just overall plate discipline just makes it more likely that these numbers are going to stay a little bit more consistent. Yeah, there might be a little bit of regression because I don't know that CJ is going to have an OPS above 1,000 the rest of the year, but it is like less likely that he falls off a cliff like he has the past 2 years. He only has two more strikeouts than walks, 14% K rate, and then 11% walk rate. And he's a 41.7 hard hit rate, which is up from his 29.8 in 2025. So he has been awesome, but the duo right there is on full display day in, day out, and have won the Nats a lot of games this year.
Yeah, and the thing about CJ's the walks and the K rate, it's like that stuff is a little bit more sustainable generally because it's a result of pitches seen as opposed to, batted ball data, which there's less of. And I think he's got a little two strike approach going. I don't think he's changing his swing path or anything he's doing, but he's making more contact in those counts because his chase rate is still high. Like he will chase out of the zone. He'll also hit out of the zone, so it's not necessarily the worst thing. His chase rate's pretty similar, but yet his K rate is down because I feel like in two strikes he's really trying to make sure he puts the ball in play. And then Wood has just been unbelievable in the last 2 weeks. Like it's just crazy the runs that he can get on because one, he hits the ball harder than everyone, and two, he gets on base more than everybody because one, fear, and two, just has a good plate discipline up there and doesn't chase a ton of pitches. So um, he's looking like he did in the first half last year. Obviously, this is once again in the first half, and there's a lot of season left to play, but um, we feel like there's a little bit more, especially for CJ, there's a little bit more sustainability. Like I feel like Wood last year's second half was more of an anomaly for him. I feel like he's not going to have a month as bad as his August was last year again. So I'm kind of willing to throw that to the side if he can just have a consistently good season this year, which I think honestly he will. So the next step with that is in CJ's consistency. And you've seen a lot less of those like one pitch, swing it, whatever at bats from CJ that you've kind of got used to seeing. Um, even when he's going well, he does that sometimes, but he's done it less this year, which I think is a good thing. He's seeing more pitches. He's being a little bit more selective up there while still maintaining a pretty aggressive approach. Like there's a ways to do it. He's kind of got the Corey Seager approach right now, where I'm going to swing at first pitches, but I'm also going to foul off pitches. I'm also going to grind you when it's two strikes. I'm going to put the ball in play and probably still hit it pretty hard somewhere. So definitely loving what I've been seeing from both of them, but especially on CJ's side because he like you said, he started hot and he stayed hot, and that kind of consistency is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's super encouraging to see obviously your two building blocks to you know start hot, right? Because the farther you go into the season with slumps and just poor performance, obviously the more panic starts to set in. Not only for us as fans, but I'm sure the players as well. So getting it right and getting it right early is a super encouraging sign. And also for CJ, our first episode of the year, we're talking about the trade rumors with CJ.
Yeah.
So seeing him in the way he is, listen, teams are going to be interested. Teams were interested back then. Teams are interested last year. Teams are going to be interested this year, especially if the Nats kind of start losing a little bit more games and they're not hovering around 500. I
Some
get it.
interesting decisions
Right.
will
I
have to
get
be
it.
made.
And they're going to have to listen. It's what any good front office would do. I find it hard pressed to move him, at least at this point. If you're hovering around 500 with this roster, I'm not saying you're a playoff team. I'm not saying you're even going to finish above 500. But if you're hovering around 500 with this roster, with just a few more guys that are AAA or AA getting to the majors, and then a few more free agent acquisitions that move the needle a little bit more, right? Not even your big splashes, but just a little bit more of a needle move. What's to say this can't be an 85 to 90 win team? And like, and CJ obviously is at the center of that. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself,
Yeah.
but
Well, I was going to point out as
yeah,
well, maybe not for this year, but like if you're around 500 at the deadline, you're probably thinking, hey, the next season we could take another step
right.
here. So,
Where
and then maybe you start considering the E word with the extension talk. Obviously, um, I think the main priority is to try and extend James Wood if you can, but I'm not sure if he's going to do that or not
yeah, and
because
Dalen Lyle has been mentioned in extension talks,
yeah,
but it
which
doesn't sound
that
like they haven't. It doesn't sound like they've had any talks to this point, which is
Lyle would
fine.
be a guy that you might be able to get on a little bit of a cheaper deal than in Abrams or Wood, because obviously Abrams has all-star status at this point. It's not going to necessarily be a cheap extension, but it's not my money. Pay him.
Yeah, right, exactly. Um, yeah, and you mentioned if they're 500 at the deadline, if we're trying to follow the Rays or Brewers, who pick whatever team, their system, right? Which is certainly seems like they're trying to do. And obviously, Buter coming from the Rays organization, it makes sense that he's trying to copy that philosophy, that plan. The Rays have been really good over the past years of buying a year early, right? Getting a guy with team control at a price where it's not necessarily cheap, but it's cheaper than what it will be a year's time.
Hmm.
And I'm not suggesting the Nats necessarily do that, but it Butera is certainly in those conversations, and he's coming from a place where they have done that. So I don't have
Yeah, Taboni
names
strikes me as the type of guy as well that would want
opportunistic.
that would jump at that if
Right.
they
It's
get
just
the chance.
opportunistic buying. So a guy with team control. Um, Obviously, I think the Nats are still in the position where they're looking to gain prospects, not ship them out. So I don't know that it happens this year, but it's just something to keep note of if this team continues to perform at a reasonable level. The other part of not necessarily our key guys, but the guys have been performing really, really well. Foster Griffin, a pleasant surprise. A little bit of a rough start his last go around, but pitched well for the first couple innings. Foster Griffin 3.05 ERA in 4 starts. Cavalli rough, but his underlying numbers look good. A 3.58 FIP. Irvin Slider has a 117 stuff plus, which is nice development. And then Gus Varlin has a really good fastball. So even though the pitching has not been encouraging most of the time, there are a few key bright spots.
Yeah, there's some signs there that there's going to be some regression to the mean a little bit. I'm not saying we're going to be good, but maybe comes back down to earth slightly. Cavalli actually, I think Cavalli threw the ball really well this past start against the Giants. He threw a lot more strikes. His command was definitely a lot better. They just grinded him out. Like honestly, they put together good at bats. Forced him out after only 4 innings. He only gave up 1 run, but obviously the next key is for him to put the innings there as well. Like he's gone 6 this year, which is good. We would like him to be averaging that. That would be the preferred outcome, or at least more than 5 would be preferred. Um, and yeah, the urban slider thing, I kind of just noticed this from watching. I was like, his slider kind of looks gross. Like, is this real and yeah, the stuff models agree. Irvin has a pretty nice slider, and he upped the usage of it in his last outing, and it showed. He pitched pretty well after again. If he can just get through a first inning,
Mm-hmm.
the dude, I gotta imagine his ERA post first inning is like 3,
Can we get
while
like a
in the
practice
first.
inning,
Yeah,
like
I
a
know. It
breakfast
feels
ball,
like it
but
feels like you
breakfast
might as
inning?
well just put up a 2-0 score when he starts the game. But if he can just start settling down to the first inning, like the stuff hasn't been particularly bad, and I feel like his average fastball velocity is up, and the slider is good, and he used it more last time. I hope that he continues to to lean on it because it's
Like,
definitely his best pitch right now.
just go throw a 30 pitch simulated inning in the bullpen before the game.
Yeah, yeah. Like give up all your runs
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
in
in
the
the simulated
bullpen.
game,
Yeah,
right?
perfect. Yeah, and then the Varland has looked good the past couple weeks, and he does have a nice top of the zone fastball. Yeah, he was not going to be a closer anywhere else, but I
If
feel
he
like
was your
maybe
sixth inning
yeah,
guy
we
or
might have we
occasional
might
seventh
have
inning
found
guy,
another
yeah.
guy that we can be like, okay, we at least can accept that this guy's in our bullpen and be like okay with it. So there's not many of those guys. We gotta kind of take what we can get. So he's looked pretty good recently. Hopefully he can stick with it. Um, yeah, and we're just trying to find any good that we can in the pitching because the rest of the pitching has been so bad, and we've harped on it enough. We don't really need to go into any more detail. Like you can look at the numbers yourself. It's not good. We're hoping that and like we said, they're making moves to try and fix it. Like they're not standing by and just letting this happen. Like they're really trying to make stuff happen. They've made trades. They've made waiver claims. Ton of options. Like I said, you got to really pay attention to the active roster to know who's on the team every day because it seems to be it's a rotation and they're using every position and they're using even beyond every position at the major league level. They're using as much as they can to try and fix it. So I appreciate that. But yeah, no, hopefully we'll see some regression to the mean with the pitching staff because eventually as well the offense is not going to be hitting like this. I mean, they've been good and I feel like they can be good like they can sustain a good offense, but eventually there's going to be some regression a little bit because I mean, the Nationals are scoring almost 6 runs a game, so
Which is
that's
nuts.
elite. But it's just
Absolute nut,
you
absolutely
can't
nuts.
expect this roster to continue to score 6 runs a game. So hopefully we can also expect the pitchers to not allow like 10 runs a game at some point. At
Yeah,
some point.
right. Can I go off a little off script for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
So just think about pitching, right? And not just pitching, but just the platooning like really got me thinking. It's like, what if they're just kind of biding their time until some more guys are ready? Like your guy, Abimelec Ortiz,
Hmm.
who's a popular uh preseason pick. And I'm not saying he's ready right now, call him up, but like what if they're waiting for him at first base to get rid of the platoon? Although I think the first base platoon has been fine. Um, but it was really the pitching that kind of made me wonder. Riley Cornelio, which is who's someone we haven't really mentioned and hasn't really been talked about a lot, is quietly dominating AAA. He's 2-0 with a 2.45 ERA, but his numbers look great. A 104 whip, 27 strikeouts to only 8 walks in 18 and a third innings. I know it's early in the season. He's only pitched in 4 games, but it's an option, right? Which is something we talked about. Options are good. And should someone, like, let's just say someone goes down in the rotation, I guess you have Lord and Alvarez, but then you plug one hole and another one opens up, right? So maybe they like Alvarez in that or Lord in that long relief role, and they go to another option. And I think Riley Cornelio is someone we probably need to be paying a little bit more attention to. He was a 7th round pick back in 2022, and has just kind of put together a solid season and has gotten better and better every single year. He had across 3 teams last year to 3.28 ERA. Um, didn't pitch a ton in Rochester, but his time there this year, he's really looked good. So you're kind of hoping that maybe he's a guy that could surprise, and that doesn't even include what's his name? I don't know how Miguel Sime, right? And I mean he's in Fredericksburg, so he's a little bit away, but he's gotten all the buzz recently with his eye popping number. So point being, I think they could just be biding their time until some of these younger guys graduate to either the MLB or just higher levels, and they get a better picture of what a roster might look like once their guys get to or close to the majors.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention Alex Clemmie in that group as well.
Yeah,
He's in Double
that's
A, so
another
he's
one.
probably not quite there yet either. But a guy that's got really good stuff. Definitely has a little bit of an issue with the walk, but that's something that they can hopefully work on because yeah, his stuff is gross. He strikes out basically everything else. that he doesn't walk. So another guy that could be a future part of that rotation. And yeah, like we said with all these long relievers, it's kind of like it doesn't really necessarily it doesn't necessarily matter if they're in the rotation or bullpen. Like you can if you can throw 5 clean innings, you can come in and throw 5 clean innings. Like we
Yeah.
saw that almost. I mean, Alvarez Day was 4 1/3, so it doesn't. There's no real like standard bullpen philosophy with this team. Like they're gonna
If
throw
you get
guys when
outs,
it's
you
time
can
to
pitch
throw a
for
guy.
us.
Exactly. Like if like today was one of the weirder box scores when you're looking at like from a traditional standpoint. We go opener to a starter to another starter to finish. I mean that's getting creative with it to get a W, honestly. So yeah, that could be a thing. You could see either these guys come up be in the rotation or maybe take on a long relief role if one of those long relievers were to move into the rotation if there was an injury or a trade potentially midseason, although Littell and Michaelis have been not good. Foster Griffin has been good, and he's on a 1 year deal, so he's probably going to get moved at some point as well. So then you start having to think about, do we take one of these guys out of the bullpen and put them in, or do we bring up a guy who might not be quite ready? I think biding their time is probably the smart choice.
Yeah. Agreed. It's just food for thought.
Oh
I
no, yeah, I
think
love it. I love
it
it. I
could
mean,
just be a setup year, and then once they have a better picture, they might be a little bit more aggressive or
I think we'll see Cornelio this year at some point.
I think we have to.
Yeah, I mean, because yeah, at some point someone's going to either completely fall off from poor performance or there will be an injury. Like it's just you can't avoid it. So,
Right. And that doesn't even include Luis Perales, who
hmm
he had one really good start and a couple of not so great ones. So I'm not saying he's knocking on the door, but he's in AAA, right? So if
hmm
he strings together a nice month and a half, what's to say? Like he's a
yeah,
Boston guy, right? So Taboni might choose him first over someone like Alvarez or whoever else might be in that conversation to fill a spot should they need it later on, like a Shinosake Gasawara. Like we don't need to see him again, do we? Right? Like they might
hope
go
not
to the
unless
high
he's fixed
upside,
it.
yeah, the high upside guy. So it food for thought, but it is interesting to kind of take a little peek ahead and see what might be coming down the road. Speaking of just not great aspects of the Nats team. Again, we're not trying to be negative, but it is a new part of strategy in a new part of the game. And through roughly a month of the season, it's interesting to see where the Nats and the rest of the MLB rank, and that is with the ABS system. Um, Long story short, they're one of the worst ABS teams in the major leagues. They have the third fewest batter challenges and the fewest successful challenges at that. They're the poorest catcher challenge ratio, 16 challenges, only 6 have been overturned. When they do challenge overall, they're only overturning 39% of calls overall, which ranks 29th in the major leagues. And they're both challenging infrequently and incorrectly, and it adds up to the 28th overall ABS run value, and that's according to George R. Lewis on Twitter, who's a great follow. But it's a tool, and knowing how much Butera and company love the numbers, you would think this is something they want to um, weaponize a little bit more. I'm not saying they have to be the leading the league and how they strategize with it, but to be effective, call it 28th, 29th, whatever, bottom of the league in it is a little bit surprising, but I guess this is new, so there might be an adjustment period. But I also think it leads to the other conversation, which needs to be brought up, tabled, and then revisited in later on in the season. Gabriel Ruiz is just not good. Like I think we just need to have a conversation about about Gabriel Ruiz and just call it what it is. Um, I held out hope, but he has not been good. So if Harry Ford, who's not hitting the cover off the ball in Rochester, but should he show anything, I think there might be a new conversation needed down the line.
It's funny because his framing numbers are actually good, which is weird because we're
That
not
is
used
true.
to that.
Yeah, that is true.
But
Yeah.
on the ABS, he's been terrible. And then obviously with the bat, he's had some clutch hits, but overall the numbers are just
Few
so
and far
poor.
between.
Um, but yeah, so he's had decent framing numbers in April before, by the way. So
Yeah.
that probably won't sustain either. Um, and I'm a little disappointed in Millis though because he was really good at it in spring training. I think he only missed like one in spring, and he's both non-aggressive and also I think his ratio is just as bad as Ruiz right now. So it's like
I wonder
I
if
don't know.
like they got gun shy because there was a
That's
couple
I was literally
games,
just gonna say the same
yeah,
thing. They
where
started pretty aggressive in the first
yeah,
few series, and I think
it burned them and so they got scared.
yeah, it seems like they've been way more passive since the first week of the season. And I get that to an extent, but like we're really not using them. And I'm like, okay, it's sixth, seventh, eighth inning. We might want to burn one. I mean, and
Can't take them
it's
home with you,
I
right?
know I
Got to
feel like
use it.
we've had two in the ninth for a lot, and it's good to have them late game, but there's plenty of situations where I feel like I mean I don't know if it's really affected anything directly in terms of runs scored, but there's probably a number that says we've lost runs based on the lack of challenges, lack of success in the challenge system. So, um, but yeah, it's been 22 games. Things can turn around quickly. We're still trying to figure out strategy. Every team is really so. Uh, Interesting to see how that evolves. We'll have to revisit that next time. See where we're at.
Yeah. So we'll see. If they, I almost want them to like lean into it, like if they want to save them for the well, I'm like thinking out or thinking in my head and before I'm talking out loud. Like if they want to use like just save them for the catchers, only the catcher is allowed to call them. All right, that's something. Or if only certain guys or certain situations, like only do it with a runner on base or whatever. Only do it if it's a strike three call. But I guess a bad call is a bad call, right? You want to be able to challenge and have the free reign, so to speak, to challenge. But we've seen some bad ones, like Nassim Nunez had an awful one early in the season where
Yeah,
the
he's had two. He might
yeah
be the reason why this is a thing with the
right,
Nats because he
right.
had two terrible
So,
challenges.
but I guess I again, all that dialogue just happened internally before I mentioned it. But like, maybe that's the debate they're having within the clubhouse as well, or within the front office. Like, how do we best utilize these challenges? Because you only get two, but if you are really good at it, then you could get six, you could get eight, you could get, in theory, an infinite amount, depending on how many bad calls
Yeah,
there
if
are
you
in
have
a
Salvi
game.
Perez on your team, you could
Right.
overturn like 10 a game because he's really good at that for some reason.
Right, right.
Not helping their record much, but
No. Well, thank God they gave him a mental breather. Um, yeah, so I don't know. It's just something that I would like to see them utilize more of. Um, so it might be personnel dependent, but it is something we'll have to monitor as the season goes on because it can truly impact the game and change losses to wins and vice versa. So that's pretty much the last 2 weeks of the Nats. Let's take a look around the league. There's a very, very compelling and exciting series between the Angels and Yankees last week. Mike Trout and Aaron Judge were lighting it up with the fireworks show. 5 home runs each in a 4-game series in the Bronx. Um, on the other side of New York, the Mets could not be doing worse. They are currently on an 11-game losing streak. Uh, I think everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for the Mets, but somehow they're not they're not last in the league in wins, which is currently I think the Royals and White Sox are tied with them. So that says a lot about those franchises. The Padres are a wagon, 9-1 their last 10, 5-run comeback win in the bottom of the ninth versus the Mariners. And it seems silly to say he's leading the charge given that he's a closer, but Mason Miller is on another planet
dude.
right now. He is striking out 21.8 batters per 9 innings, which there's only 27 outs in the game. And he's striking out damn near 22 of them over 9 innings, no runs allowed. I saw a clip on Twitter that was really funny, and it took me a second to get it. But the caption was, "This was easily the most impressive feat in baseball this year," and it was just a Luis Ariz single, and I was like, What's impressive about that?" But I realized it was off of Mason Miller, and that was the impressive part.
Is that the only
So
hit he's allowed to? I think he's only allowed one hit. I'm pretty sure that
yeah,
was it.
it's absurd. Mason Miller, like I understand in a lot of people's minds, the package they gave up to get him was a lot, but for the way he's pitching, I don't know that there's any
Yeah.
prospect you wouldn't trade to get the
His
production.
his ERA plus is infinite because he hasn't allowed any.
Yes, right,
Which is
right.
just that's just crazy to go to a baseball reference page and see a blank space in that area because it's like, what? How is this even
Yeah,
possible?
seriously. And then finally, I think to the delight of many, the Astros' reign, I think, is pretty much coming to an end. They are not the same team, and I think it is evident that they are not the same team. So, you know, uh,
Rest
sucks
in
to suck.
piss.
Yeah, right. Seriously. Um, but yeah, a lot of good baseball, obviously around the league. You could the Blue Jays and Brewers series was certainly exciting. Both teams with high expectations struggling mightily to start the year. That kind of seemed like a series where neither team really deserved to win most of those games. A lot of good baseball around the league, and it's been an interesting start. I think everything has gone exactly how everyone thought, right? Certainly no
Yeah,
surprises
exactly. Yeah, there's no
whatsoever.
no weirdness in
Yeah.
the standings except that God, it is weird. I love it. I love it. I love to see that kind of parody early on. Um, dude, I just got to go back to Mason Miller one more time here because it's almost impossible for a relief pitcher to win the Cy Young. It's
Yeah.
probably more possible nowadays, in theory, although they used to give it to relievers in like the 80s for some reason because they were weird. But
Yeah. We don't talk about that. It's just
yeah,
weird.
no, weird stuff back then. But like legitimately, like he's not going to not allow a run all season, but you have a sub one ERA as a reliever in modern MLB. I mean,
Especially when guys don't get to 200 innings with the same
exactly. That's what I'm
frequency.
saying. Like relief pitching is way more important now because you just teams have to pick up way more innings from their bullpens. So it's just I'm just putting the thought out there. It's very early, but like I mean, Chapman wasn't that far off from last year from having a chance at it when he had his huge streak of not allowing runs. Mason Miller's better, straight up. So like at this point in their careers, at least. Um, so it's just interesting to think about a potential relief pitcher, Cy Young. I think the last one was Eric Gagne in the steroid era, and he was also on steroids, so that doesn't really count. But that's just something that could theoretically happen with the start that he's had, and if he can maintain some level of this, like obviously, like I said, he's gonna eventually allow a run. You can't possibly get through a full season without it. But you go 70 innings with a sub 1 ERA, and all of a sudden, there's not too many guys that I could pick over you at that point. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he progresses. Also, last thing I forgot to put on here was Munetaka Murakami, who's gone back to back to back games with homers twice this season. He just recently did it again in the A's series that they just played. So he's hitting bombs, which is really cool to see a Japanese star come over and immediately have success. Just feels like once again we've mentioned it before, but the international competition is just continues to excel and get better, and it's just really cool to see all the best players playing together. I mean, there's still a ton of great players overseas that could be playing here potentially, but it feels like we're trending in a good direction to see the best players competing all the time.
He also went back to back on ABS challenges, won them both.
Yes, he's got a good eye. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, he swings and misses a lot, but he can also walk. So he's a very interesting hitter going forward for the rest of the season. I've tried to watch as many of his plate appearances as possible because he is fascinating to me.
Yeah, he is. I have a little piece of trivia to wrap the show. You ready for this?
Yes.
Curtis Mead, the aforementioned Nationals part-time first baseman, third baseman, hero in today's game. He was formerly a top 100 prospect, which I didn't realize at the time. But he was with the Rays organization, which hence the Butera connection. He was dealt to the Rays organization, so he did not originate there. Do you know who he was dealt for?
Oh,
It was a 1-for-1 trade, and the person he was dealt for is definitely a notable name.
all right. You might have to give me the other team, but
Phillies.
okay. I feel like I remember this. Alvarado?
Nope, that would be Christopher Sanchez.
Oh, wait, what? Christopher Sanchez was in the Rays
He
organization?
sure was.
Dang.
And now Christopher
Wow.
Sanchez,
W
that
trade for the Phillies. Gotta be honest. I mean,
yeah.
I
It,
liked what I've seen from Meade so far for the Nats, but like that's Christopher Sanchez.
yeah, Christopher Sanchez having quite a good year. I mean, records are whatever, but 1.59 ERA is what's a little high right now. But he is certainly one of the best pitchers in baseball at the
Lethal.
moment.
And I gotta give I will give myself a pat on the back for knowing he was gonna be this not maybe not this good, but pretty good back in the day. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Back in the day, when?
Like, like 2022 or something.
Yeah, right before his breakout.
Right
Gotcha.
before he was good. Yeah. He
Yeah,
was already good, and I was like, he's gonna be real good. And then he
yeah,
was.
sure.
Wow. Crazy analysis, am I
Yeah, hard hitting, hard
right?
hitting. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll see how the Nats do in their upcoming battle with the NL East leader, Atlanta Braves, before they travel to Chicago. And then, um, well, not only Chicago, they get the Mets after that. They travel to Queens. So, regardless of how the Brave series go, they got 6 games against teams where, in theory, they should be at least behind you at the current point in time. So the next time we talk, we might be in a pretty good spot. And then you get the Brewers at home again, where you just swept them. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying the Nats could be in a position to make some noise. So I am looking forward to it. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Twitter/X at District BSB. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, District Baseball. Trey, you got anything else for the people before we head out?
The Phillies just lost again. So that's my
Oh yeah.
positive affirmation for tonight is that the Phillies lost again. So yeah, but obviously let's go Nats, and we're really looking forward to this Braves series.
Yep. Let's get to it. All right, people. Appreciate you listening. We will talk to you next time. And in the meantime, let's go Nats.
Let's go Nats.